Hi, everybody. This is David Ellefson, and you are watching That Metal Interview podcast.
That Metal Interview.
How you doing, David? I spoke to you about 2 years ago, so how you been so far?
Great. Yeah, I'm doing well, man. Doing well.
Of course, all your fans follow you on social media. Can you talk to us? What is Basstory?
It's Bass Story, is how we say it.
Basstory.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us about that?
Well, we did one show last week in Connecticut leading up to the Terrificon Comic-Con appearance that Chris Poland and I did. You know, I started that. I did a tour across Australia, and it sort of morphed from kind of a storyteller clinic thing into more of a band performance. And so that's the origin of it. I took it around the world in 2018 and 2019. And I haven't done one now since then. Of course, COVID hit and everything. And then recently, the last 2 years, I've been over in Europe. I've been doing the Bass Warrior Tour, which is, a bit more of a performance-based thing. But Bass Story, I go kind of through my whole career songs. I go through a bit of my record collection. We did a little tribute, of course, to Ozzy and Black Sabbath last week. And Chris Poland joined me for a few songs at the end of the night. So, it's meant to be this retrospective, performance concert, but also with a storytelling aspect rather than just sort of only a bombastic performance,
Will we see that here in Texas sometime, you think?
Maybe. No, I think I did one in San Antonio, actually, on New Year's Eve 2 years ago. I think I did one at a venue there in town. And this, I think, the last time that I had done one. And so anyway, yeah, probably. I mean, in between everything else, Kings of Thrash kind of gets priority right now for the rest of this year and even into next year. So, but yeah, I'm looking at maybe doing some more Bass Story stuff next year.
Yeah, you're a busy guy. So you mentioned Kings of Thrash. How's that going? And can you update us on that? What's going on with the guys, with Jeff? And
yeah, well, yeah, we have a whole tour. All of our tour dates are posted on the Kings of Thrash socials, as well as on my socials. So we've got dates, Southern California run, with one Arizona date, first week of September. And then we have a Florida run, and then a kind of a East Coast Midwest run in coming up here in October. And I'm sorry here. And so it and then next year we got a bunch of stuff. There's some more dates to be announced. So all kinds of good stuff coming up here.
Let's speak of Unbreakable, of course.
Yeah,
I got to listen to it, and it's just awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome metal. Here's a dumb question: are you excited for this album?
Of course, yeah, of course. It's funny. This record, as we were mixing it and finishing it up, I really feel like this was one of the better records I've made in quite a while, in many years. And those things are always a combination of a bunch of things. It's every song you write, you write it to be as good as it can be. You try to record it as well as you can, so it's like you do everything, to the highest standard always. But, sometimes there's just voodoo in the air, on certain records. I guess, like Rest in Peace gets one of those, Peace Sells. To me, Countdown to Extinction and Euthanasia were those, so I've had a lot of these in my career, the Cryptic Writings record, stuff like that, so I think probably the Dystopia record, had that same spirit around it. So that difference between when something is really, really, really good and being truly great is about that far. You know what I mean? It's just, and you know, you can't even put your finger on it. It's just something that happens. It's a moment in time. It's you know, people say it, the stars align, whatever. But you know, look, they don't just happen. You have to work for them. And I think we laid the groundwork on our first record, Vacation in the Underworld. You know, that album stands up as well. You know, I think at the time when that record came out, I was like, man, this really checks a lot of boxes for me. You know, it's heavy metal, it's power metal, it's hard rock. There's a bit of, you know, the power ballad thing in there, you know, if you want to use that as a description. You know, I don't ever kind of use these. I don't go, oh, there's a great power metal song. There's my thrash. I don't ever think of it like that. You know, maybe fans do, for sure, journalists and probably record companies, because they have to market and sell the stuff. But you know, for me as a composer and as a writer, I don't pick up a guitar and go, I need to write a thrash song today. You know, that's not how it works. You know, so you know, Jeff and I have great synergy, and really Andy Martingelli. You know, he's our guitar player. He's the other partner in this. I mean, deservedly so. He should almost have his name on the door too, because he's a driving force with this thing. He's a co-composer across the board with everything. And, you know, so between the three of us, you know, we really make some great music. And our drummer, Paolo Caride, who's over in Italy. I remember I was doing a bass story, and I asked Andy to put the band together for me when we had a show in Milan. And this was probably 2018. And he put the band together for me, and I said, like, let's just warm up play a tune like Wrathchild by Iron Maiden or something, you know, something we all know. And dude, as soon as we started playing it, Paulo, the way he was driving the hi-hat like Clive Burr did, I literally thought Clive Burr was sitting back there playing drums, man. I told Andy, I go, and Paulo could hardly speak any English at the time. He was younger. He spoke almost exclusively Italian, and he speaks much better English now. So I'd have to go to Andy to talk to the band, because they spoke pretty much all Italian, you know. And I told Andy, I go, he's my guy. No matter what we do over here, he's the guy, you know. So that's why we brought him in here to play on the Ellefson-SOTO records, because, you know, when you have a musical connection with somebody, you know, that's like that's you know, it's what you want to keep, you know. It's the same as like falling in love, you know what I mean? You take care of it, you nurture it, you know, and that's how musical relationships are, you know. And I think that's how this Ellefson-SOTO record is. It's a friendship, but it's a musical friendship that you want to keep going and keep creating and keep nurturing it and keep it going.
Yeah, I saw you mentioned these guys from Italy, and then I saw the credits where you recorded in the UK. Is that correct? So
yeah, we did. Yeah.
How did you guys arrange the album? I know you're in the US, right? So how did that work out?
So, you know, it's funny, these last few years, I've made a lot of records out of the country, out of the USA, like Dieth. You know, those guys are from, the band's basically based in Gdansk, Poland. So that was one. And then with Ellefson-SOTO, same thing. You know, Andy and I think we started writing the first Ellefson-SOTO record when I was on. It was right as we finished. It was my last megadeth tour I did in February of 2020. COVID was coming down on us, of course, and we got together up in Wembley, which is northwest London. And Andy's friend Alessio Garavello has a great studio there, and that studio really had magic in it. And we wrote almost that entire Vacation in the Underworld album, the music, like in a couple of days. I mean, those songs just fell out, you know. Nice. And we did the same thing with this record. In 2023, I was over there working on the Dieth record. Ironically, we were shooting some music videos. So I went from Poland to London, and
busy.
Yeah, and it's, you know, I mean, I'm the guy who's my whole life, I've always get in the car, get on a plane, fly, drive anywhere to go have musical friendships. I did it sight unseen with Temporal Brutality. I flew to Florida. I did it with the band Killing Machine. I, went to LA, jumped in the room, recorded the record. So I do this all the time, man. I have no problem flying to Poland, flying to Germany, flying to England, wherever, South America, wherever it is, because that's what it is, man. Music, music is spirit, and it's out in the universe, and sometimes changing locations, changing the friend group that's a part of it, that's all part of a different combination of people capturing it, I mean, look, I drove to Hollywood. I didn't know anybody out there. I drove to Hollywood. Met my upstairs neighbor, Dave Mustaine. We started Megadeth. I've been doing this my whole life, and so for me, the world is just a bunch of zip codes and area codes. You know what I mean? For me, it's about connecting with the people, because it's through the people that's where the music happens.
Where do you think this comes from, David? It's a passion. We're born with this. You're a musician. I play guitar too. We're born with this passion, and you wake up in the morning, a cup of coffee, answer your messages. What drives you to drive to the airport and here we go again, go to Poland or wherever?
we're all hardwired with a gift, a passion, and that's what I look at it. It's a gift, and this is the one that I got, out of the toy chest as a kid. This is the one that was put in me, and I was aware of it when I started hearing rock and roll about 10 years old or so, 10, 11 years old, and I got my bass, and I started putting bands together at age 12, and I'm doing the same thing now that I did since then, and when I was 12, I got my bass. I was on a farm in Minnesota. I went, I got to find some other people who like listen to Kiss and want to play rock and roll, and that's what I did. That's what I did, and so that's what I've been doing my whole life, and I still do it. I see my friends' concerts, and I'm enamored by them because they're doing the same thing. It's putting their version of it together, and we've all had our to me the success, part of it is the box office and the record sales, and of course that's because that helps pay the bills, but that was never, the numbers weren't the driving force as much as it was the like seeing Kiss and going, I want to do that. I need to figure out how they do that, because that looks fun, and that's really what I'm doing. Is I'm still, I'm still tweaking and engineering and discovering, the nuances of that. And to me, music is the vehicle for that. I love performing. I love, whether I go out on stage in front of a few dozen people, or if it's a stadium full of people, it's the same experience. You get the same elation from that, and the payoff after playing your songs for a few people or a bunch of thousands of people is the same. Yes. So I think at some point you just get comfortable on the stage. You get comfortable with the process. The stage is just a vehicle for you to perform your songs.
I saw an interview with some another musician as yourself. He said there is no more music industry as in the 80s or 90s. How do you see the music industry nowadays, David? Of course, it's very different. There's internet and this and that, social media. How do you see it compared to, you were there in the 80s and 90s,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got in under the wire. I got in when there was still an opportunity to have a career, make a living, pay for, to have basically pay for your life so you can keep making more music. You know what I mean? For me, that was the goal. It wasn't just to acquire a bunch of toys and then retire. It was like, no, this is what you do. And so I've tried to be a good steward of the money I've made and the things so that I can, pay the bills, and, not have to stress, because believe me and Dave, we were homeless in those early years, man. That was rough, so I think and I never called home for money. So I was like, I got to make this on my own, man. And by doing that, it makes me appreciate, it's the old saying, the price of everything, but the value of nothing, And I think by going through what we went through, putting Megadeth together, and then starting all these new bands, because you all start from the beginning. You start at the beginning. You appreciate the value of it. And that's why I think I appreciate the value of camaraderie, the value of when you have real musical companionship with people. And the value of when you put something out and it connects with people, and you feel that it's connecting, that you really feel like, we're building a community here with what we're doing. And I think the community to me at this point in my life is always more important, and, we're a tribe, we're a tribe of kind of quirky misfits, and we do the best we can to integrate into normal life. But let's face it, we're the black T-shirt crowd. You're one too, otherwise we wouldn't be doing this interview together, right?
Yes, sir.
And
always.
I was at a Comic-Con this weekend with Chris Poland, and it's the gathering of misfits, and the wanted and the unwanted, and that's who we are. And I think that's what's. I've gotten to make music for the masses, that who consume music through radio and MTV and these things. And I've gotten to make music, that's just kind of for the little clique of weirdos, that we all are, So I think, look, the music industry, look, it was all kind of born, I think John Scott said it best, right? Guitar man got famous, the businessman got rich. You're selling. Look, there's two sides to it, right? And there's the music industry, which is where you make music and you sell that music as a product, right? And it used to be done through record companies, and that now it's done through Spotify, YouTube, digital, more of the digital means. Yet, however, with ELLEFSON-SOTO, Rat Pack is a good example. They still believe in, our fan base likes vinyl, cassettes, T-shirts, patches, trading cards, all the things. There's, Joe at Rat Pack did not forget about that component, because that's a big part of our community as rockers and metalheads, right? But then the other side of it is the entertainment industry, right? So when you go on stage, you're not really in the music industry anymore. Now you're in the entertainment industry, right? So when you get on stage, what makes you a compelling product? Because that's what you are at that point. You're a product, and if you don't like that, then don't get in the business. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's, again, are you, it's kind of the circus, that's why I think Kiss learned how to breathe fire and put makeup on, and let's go to the circus. And for those of us, it's so weird that, my generation, we grew up being these big Kiss fans with all this sort of fantasy thing. And then our generation was the opposite of that. We're like jeans and T-shirts.
Yeah.
Our connection was that we were no different than the audience, and that was our connection. And generations kind of go through these cycles. And so for our generation, and AC/DC was like this, I would say, there was a connection of that. The musicians were just like us. They were one of us. We were like them. They were like us. Metallica were the kings of this, and they still are. Their whole show is very fan driven. The Snake Pit, they're just everything about what they do. And, they were the leaders of the thrash movement. And I'm lucky that I got to be part of that and help expand and develop and color that as well. And so, when you're on that stage, you've got to be doing something that is compelling, like to make people watch you on the stage,
Yeah.
So it's, that's to me is kind of the mindset of it. And of course, for us musicians, we take our songs on the stage because that's part of what makes it's the reason we're on the stage, quite honestly. But, again, it's not the music business, it's the entertainment business. So that's where, record companies, or in this case, Spotify, YouTube, whatever, they sell the music. When you get on a stage, there's a promoter. Their job is to sell the concert ticket, so that's really what it is in my view.
Right. So let's speak of a song on the new album, ELLEFSON-SOTO, by the name of Ghosts. It's an instrumental. I love that. It's awesome. Can you talk about that song? Who wrote it? Is it you and the guitar player, or?
Yeah, yep, exactly. We came up with an idea of having this kind of instrumental. It's funny if you think about Rust in Peace, Dawn Patrol was Ghosts, right? You know what I mean? It was sort of this
Yes.
this cleanse the palate before the rest of the onslaught, and before you eat the main course and the dessert, and yeah, it's sort of a musical interlude. Andy's a fantastic guitar player.
Nice.
He can literally play anything: classical music, pop music, metal, blues, jazz. He's an educated musician, and I thought it was great to get. On the last record, I had a musical interlude, and I thought on this one it would be fun to let him have it. Let him showcase his guitar abilities. And so that's what that song is.
Yeah. How about Jeff Scott? Great vocalist, as we all metalheads know. From his Malmsteen stuff to his other stuff. How did you meet Jeff Scott, and when did the idea of this project come about, ELLEFSON-SOTO? For the people who don't know, because this is your sophomore album.
Yeah. So I've known Jeff for years. I too got to know of him through his Yngwie work so many years ago. He's a big sound of the Rockstar movie soundtrack. He sings probably about half of that. I see him every year with Trans-Siberian Orchestra. I go down and see the show. And so, yeah, we've been friends. We've kind of danced around each other in musical circles a little bit. And so finally, Andy Martingelli back in 2021, when we were composing what would become our debut album, Vacation in the Underworld, he just urged me. He goes, dude, call Jeff Scott Soto. You love the guy. You guys are friends. You love his singing. And so that's where it began, was there. And as we went through the process of making that record, we realized, man, yeah, this is great. Now, I didn't know if we would ever make a second record, to be honest with you, because look, Jeff's got a very busy schedule, and it's hard to make records and not tour. I should say it's not so hard now, because I think even our fans have heard so many artists complain about how it's expensive. The days of being able to go out on the road and present a really compelling show, it's just got harder and harder, because look, at the end of the day, we need the fans to show up and pay for it. If they don't pay for it, we can't do it. You know what I mean? It's kind of just like, if you're making whatever, I make coffee. If people don't want to buy my coffee, I can't make any more to sell it. So it's this supply and demand thing. And while pretty much anybody can make a song and put it on the internet, to take it out on the road and serve up a really good show, that's not so easy. Just because of the time and the effort, and let's face it, we all live in our band, we live in two different countries. We live in America and Italy. So our first shows we did were over there in Italy when the last album came out. This year, or actually next year, April, we ELLEFSON-SOTO's on the Monsters of Rock cruise. And so we're looking obviously to have some other performance opportunities. It's just, I think the calendar is closing up pretty tight this year to do it. Maybe next year in 2026 we can do some more. Awesome. So obviously when and where possible, we certainly will.
How did you pick your special guests on this album? You got Laura of Burning Witches and Ripper, right, Tim?
Yeah. Well, Andy Martingelli suggested Laura because he had just done a show, I think, with her, and I thought it was a great idea. I love Burning Witches. I know them as well, and she's a fantastic singer. She blended very well with Jeff. And then Ripper, I saw him when KK Priest came to Phoenix here, so I went down and I asked him, because we had the idea like having him would, and again, I think it was actually Andy's idea. He goes, dude, we should get Ripper, especially on that track Vengeance. We felt like that song had the right, sort of dual character kind of singing that would work. So I asked him, and he agreed right away. Like, absolutely. I mean, and Tim is just Ripper is just singing so good these days, man. It's like I think he's singing the best he's ever sung in his whole career. He's with KK's Priest was just phenomenal, So we're really, really thrilled to have him on the album.
Here's a different question, David. I won't keep you long. It's a sci-fi question, I think. I ask everybody, if you could time travel, where would you travel to, and what year would it be?
It's a good one. I don't know. I'd probably time travel up to the moon to see if we actually went there or not. Probably in the 60s when I was a kid. It's like, did we really do that? They tell us the iPhone's got more technology than the Apollo. So I'm like, I don't know. Did we really go? And I'm not a conspiracy guy, but it's just, once someone plants that in your mind, you're like, that's a good question. I wonder if we really did go there, So,
right?
Maybe that.
Thank you for your time, David. I won't keep you anymore. Unbreakable, August 15th. So fans are going to love this stuff. So thank you for your time once again.
Appreciate it. Yep. Thank you for your help promoting it. We really appreciate it.
Do not forget to pick up your personal copy, the sophomore album from the metal project of our times, ELLEFSON-SOTO. Of course, that being David Ellefson and Jeff Scott Soto. Jeff Scott is known very well for Talisman, and of course his time with Yngwie Malmsteen. He was the vocalist for the first album, and there are some stories of the second album, but for sure you can find him there. Big shout out to Jeff Scott, who we've had on the show before, and thank you to David Ellefson, formerly of Megadeth and now of Diet, Kings of Thrash, ELLEFSON-SOTO, and his own project, Ellefson. So thank you, David, for making time and to chat with us about this sophomore album from Rat Pack Records. And don't forget to pick it up. Go to ratpackrecords.com. You guys can order it. 11 awesome tracks. That's 10 tracks plus a bonus track, which is Death on Two Legs. And as we spoke to David, he had two guests on there. He had Laura Goldemon, front woman for Burning Witches, and of course Tim Ripper Owens of KK's Priest, formerly of Judas Priest. So thank you guys for being a part of the show. Thank you for sharing and being a part of this podcast, That Metal Interview Podcast, all the way from the state of Texas, where we circle around the sun still. And don't forget to keep it metal.
That Metal Interview.